Hello, this is Culture Coil, the podcast of Paul and Gregory, and we welcome you to our Halloween special.
Excellent. I'm very excited. Our
Yeah,
favorite
so
holiday.
hallelujah. Happy Halloween, Paul.
Yes. Happy spooky season.
All right, so today we're going to take on a Herculean effort to discuss the 13 movies in the official Halloween franchise, all in one podcast.
Whew.
Okay. So before we begin, I'd like to say that we're starting at the most recent films, and then we'll work our way up to the beginning of the franchise in 1978. So we're going to go in kind of groups of 3 and 2 films, depending if it's a sort of trilogy or duology, depending who made them over the years. All
Yeah,
right.
that's a great way to go. Let's do it. I'm ready.
Okay. So the first one we're going to do is amazingly called Halloween, which is the third time in the franchise that the title Halloween has been used. So it's very imaginative. This is from the Blumhouse Studios, and it came out in 2018. And I would consider this trilogy analogous to the pathetic Disney Star Wars sequel trilogy,
Hmm.
in that it's all hype and nostalgia and member berries and hype and hype and hype. And a lot of great people worked on these Blumhouse Halloween movies. So this is, a credit to them that they were on the crew or the cast. But overall, I think you may find that our opinions are maybe not as favorable as some.
That is true. And my opinion of this film, I just could not stand it. It was just, I saw it in the theater and I genuinely considered walking out, which I never do. I'm like this completist and I have to see a movie from beginning to end, no matter how, much I don't like it. But there has been a handful of times in my life where I've gotten very close to saying I'm out of here. This was one of them. I really, really disliked it. And I think you were right. I mean, I think it was way overhyped. And just the first thing I noticed is the hype was its original. First thing I noticed is it's exactly the same story as H2O. It's the same exact story.
Yeah, except I would add this, that the new writers on this trilogy, at least in the first film, she kind of changes through the 3 films. Um, they somehow decided that Laurie Strode had to become Sarah Connor.
There's a
And
little of that in H2O at the end, but it's done
yeah,
right. She
yeah,
really turns the tides at the end, and it feels good because you want her to.
yeah. But in this one, she's like fully like armed to the teeth from the very get-go of the movie.
Yeah, yeah.
And so they're pushing the PTSD thing. And I'm like, she was a good girl, bookish student 40 years ago, and now she's Sarah Connor. And
Yeah.
it doesn't really work for
Yeah, she's
me.
she's Ripley in Alien 3. Yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, the way that they took it on, plus I think it's kind of arrogant that they decided to completely ignore everything. And at first, I think the idea was they were going to include Halloween 1 and 2 from 1981, the second film. And then they decided to ignore that one too. And I'm like, those two kind of fit together, So it was a weird choice to make, to ignore that. And so what they've done, is they basically decided we're going to completely rewrite the whole story. And maybe if you did that 5 or 10 years after the original, okay, but 40 years later, after all these films and everyone's invested in different characters, and some of them, like Jamie Lee Curtis, has a son. Now she's got a daughter and a granddaughter and no son.
Right,
And I think
right.
it's kind of bewildering, like, to just run roughshod over everything everyone else has done over the decades and just go, here's the real story. So I was a little resistant to the film just based on that before I even saw it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't immerse myself in a lot of press and things about a movie before I see it. I just kind of see it cold. And I saw this cold too. I heard that there was a buzz and that they were saying it's great and original, but that was it. So, but my dislike for it is just purely the film itself, whether it had buzz or not. I thought the film was extremely inferior in so many ways.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a credit to them that they tried and thought they had a good story. But I don't think that they really had the tools to make this narrative work. Like starting off with Michael Myers being an old man who's been incarcerated for 40 years, like
Mm,
and they don't play a supernatural angle like they do in some of the movies. So
no.
there's no reason that this elderly man should be so dangerous when he escapes. The escape is absurd to the point like these guys usually work in comedy. Unlike the Star Wars trilogy, David Gordon Green was the director on all three of these Halloween movies. And, he's known for comedies largely and independent films that are very character driven. Um, but I'm like, you don't see like how ridiculous it is to like do a prisoner transfer the night before Halloween with this guy on the bus who's like the most dangerous killer on Halloween.
Yep.
And then, of course, he
It
escapes the bus.
it
And
was
then,
all the cliches that we had seen before, and I just couldn't believe that they were doing it. That was for me, scene for scene. I'm like, they're really doing this, and then, and this is my overall criticism, just in case, because people are like, well, why doesn't he like us so much? It- the overall thing is, I didn't think any of the sequences were directed well.
mm,
I was never able to suspend my disbelief for anything. I thought it was terribly done. Like, just for example, that babysitter scene.
mm,
Then this example will explain all the rest of them. They were all like this for me. Like when
mm,
she's got her boyfriend over and they're
mm,
babysitting the young like 10-year-old boy that's upstairs. And she's like, they're making out on the couch. Cool, no problem. That's what Halloween is. I mean, that's fine. And then she hears a noise and she's like, wait a minute. And she's really into making out. Like she's the one, she's like the aggressor and everything. And then she's like, wait, I heard something. And I listened carefully this time because I rewatched it and I
mm,
listened, what is the noise? It sounds like maybe like a metal filing cabinet drawer being shut, like shh,
mm,
just like a normal anything. Like he could have been moving a chair upstairs. There's a
mm,
10-year-old kid upstairs in his bedroom.
mm. They're not quiet 10-year
10-year-old
olds.
kids are not quiet. And
Yeah.
whenever I was told I had to go to bed, and every other person I ever knew and ever met, we were like, yeah, oh, we're going to bed. And then, of course, have our flashlight on. We're playing with our toys. We're doing anything we can do in our room because we don't want to go to sleep. That's every kid.
Mm,
So she's like, oh my God. No, no, no. Please go see. Please. She's so upset. She's so scared. There's a noise upstairs where the kid is.
what a
Uh, uh,
shock.
yeah. So she's frightened. He's like, okay, fine. He starts to get up. He goes up the stairs, and the kid comes running down. Oh my God, guys! There's a man in my room. I saw someone.
Mhm.
And then the boy seems to kind of believe her. She goes, "Oh, don't be silly. Oh, a man in your room, huh?
Mm.
Oh."
Maybe he's in the closet.
The one that heard the noise and was terrified for an innocent noise where there's no reason to be scared,
Mhm.
suddenly the boy confirms that it's the thing she feared. And now she doesn't, she's just instantly like, oh no, haha, no, no. What? Like, I'm so confused. I'm sitting in the audience. I'm like, wait, what? And then she goes up and she checks everything. And
Right.
she promises she checks, and she checks the closet and she checks the drapes because he says, you checked the drapes? Yes. Then she's just making fun of it. She's making light of it. She's actually, oh, she does a jump scare on the little kid. He's like, where are you? Are you checking the
Oh,
room? Where are, and then she
yeah.
comes out, blah! Like, why would she do that? She was the one that was scared. Why would
Yeah.
she do that to a 10-year-old? That doesn't make, she wouldn't. That's not realistic. Then every single second, your mind is trying to figure out, wait, what? Why would someone do that? Huh? And that was how I felt the entire time. I felt like the director just had no concept, and the script was probably a fault too, of how to construct a suspense scene that was logical enough for us to suspend our disbelief
Yeah.
and go with it.
Yeah. I think that's sort of an epidemic throughout this trilogy is the motivation issue. It's almost like the characters are play acting through all three of these
They are.
movies.
They're play acting
And
the cliches they've seen in horror movies since the 50s. And that's all you got here was like weird play acted things that didn't connect together in a cohesive script.
yeah, certainly a lot more brutal than movies from the 50s generally,
Yep.
but the character motivations, yeah, I found it very difficult to engage with this. I like the idea that they gave Laurie Strode a daughter and a granddaughter. okay, you can have a lot of emotion and a lot of like really good character work there.
Yep.
Some of it is okay. I didn't mind all of that, and in the later films, it it's a part of the plot of the next two films as well. Um, but this one with the podcasters, ironically, showing up to like interview Michael Myers at the asylum, and like they're part of the plot too. I'm like, we don't need
Oh
that. Like,
God.
what is this?
That
Like,
opening scene, it looked like a bad episode of CSI. The way it was shot, the way the film
yeah, that's a
stock
good
looked.
call.
And I just was like, this looks like bad television. They're going into this mental hospital, whatever it is. And
Hmm.
then the courtyard scene also filled with 1,000 illogical head scratching moments where I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was like,
I think they just like that checkered floor. They're
yeah,
like, we got to use this place, man. It looks cool. That's the feeling I got right away. Instead of like actual dread, I was like, oh, these are guys making a movie. And I
yeah.
felt like that through most of it, unfortunately. Um, anyway, we're giving it way too much time.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But
let's move on.
there are some nice shots of Michael wandering around with the knife or looking for a weapon. Those things are atmospheric and nice, but it's like 6% of the film. But
And
anyway,
I giggled at a member berry because they have the kids in the masks from Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. They have them actually trick or treating in the masks
oh
from
yeah,
the third movie. I'm like,
Y-
okay,
yeah,
that's fine.
yeah.
Most people, who are born after like 1990 wouldn't even know what that is. So it's fine. It's a funny little reference. Um, Moving on,
Mm.
Halloween Kills. Immediately, the title made me think of a kid on the playground when their lack of vocabulary because they're a little kid. Like if they skin their knee or they get stung by a bee, they're like, it kills. And that's the way I thought. I'm like, what does that title even mean? Halloween Kills? Because Halloween as a holiday doesn't go around killing people.
Yeah.
So it must mean that it's Halloween is an adjective describing the kills. These are the kills of Halloween, I guess.
Or like these I never thought of it like I knew it was awkward, but maybe it's a certain number of kills happened on Halloween. These are the Halloween kills. And then the police go, how
Yeah.
many Christmas kills this year? Oh, zero. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, Bob Clark is dead, so there aren't any more Christmas kills. Um, a deep cut Black Christmas reference, but
Yeah.
we won't talk about that a whole lot. We don't have time for it. We're doing Halloween movies. So Halloween Kills is farcical. If it weren't so sadistic, because it's a really mean, brutal movie. If it weren't that, it would be laugh out loud hilarious. Like it's genuinely a funny movie by accident. And I actually was not sure how to grapple with it. I watched it on cable, but I watched the whole thing. And when I first saw this thing, I was like, I'm not sure how to feel about this. It's not gripping me, it's not suspenseful, but it's funny, but it's so brutal that it's hard to laugh while I'm watching this. It's not like intentionally like Sam Raimi brutal and funny.
Right.
It's like it wants to be taken seriously for the brutality. And then it just like ticks boxes of Michael going around literally doing some Halloween kills. You know, you get a gay couple, tick the box. You get a biracial couple who are fighting over a drone, like how they're bickering over how to use a drone in their house. And so we tick the box because that's what we're doing in this particular time period. I'm not opposed to anyone of any particular stature or status, but the movie feels like it's just literally ticking boxes.
Right.
And these are not people in Michael's trajectory. They're not related to Laurie Strode. He's just going around killing some people. So it's kind of boring, and it looks like directing workshop stuff.
Oh yeah.
Um, and then the standout performer of this movie is Anthony Michael Hall, who takes over for Paul Rudd as Tommy Doyle, the little boy who lives across the street from the original movie or whatever. And he's outrageous in this movie. It's kind of fascinating how over the top he is in this movie. He's much scarier in this movie than Michael Myers,
Mm.
and he's the evil dies tonight guy. He's really into it. And of course he doesn't survive the movie. Whoops, spoiled it. But yeah, if you're watching this movie, it's all the Anthony Michael Hall show, in my opinion. Like it's
Hmm.
it's a it's Farmer Ted gone to hell.
Yeah,
16
yeah.
Candles
And
reference.
I think he wanted to make an impact. I mean, I'm sure it was directed that way too, but he has potential. Like you look at those old 80s movies and I'm like, you know what?
Sure,
This kid can
sure.
act. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean he's a big kind of personality, but that's okay in the right role. But so yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he overshadows everyone in this movie, which is kind of a mistake because it's supposed to be a Laurie Strode story. And she's, of
Uh,
course, kind of like in Halloween 2 and in Halloween 2, she's incapacitated in the hospital in this one
Oh,
for a lot of the movie. So let's proceed to Halloween Ends, which is even weirder than the first two. Um, it's like these guys got bored with the franchise. I don't remember all their names, but David Gordon Green and his cronies who write these movies. It's like they just didn't have any ideas left. And they're like, well, we have to do a third one. So let's finish up. The pandemic had begun. The first one was 2018, but then the second one, which continues immediately on the first one, was 3 years later. Then the one that was the next year, 2022, takes place 4 years later in movie time.
oh,
So Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie Strode has moved into a beautiful house that's like Martha Stewart approved, and she's writing her memoir. And she's not at all the gun crazy that she was in the first movie. She's like tamped that way down. She's like really mellow now. Her daughter has been killed, but her granddaughter is alive. And then the movie becomes like a Christine ripoff, believe it or not, another John Carpenter film. Um, there's a brand new character introduced in the third movie who's like the main character of the movie, named Corey Cunningham. I don't remember the actor's name offhand, but he's okay. But the idea is that he accidentally allowed a kid to die while he was babysitting. So he's like the black sheep of the town.
mm,
And he encounters Michael Myers, who like transfers his evil into him. So Corey Cunningham becomes the new evil, steals Michael's mask, and it's like kind of jarring how disconnected it feels from the first two movies
hmm.
of this trilogy. It's some people kind of respect it for being so odd. Um, I had a hard time respecting Halloween
You
Ends.
have to make whatever you're doing work. If it doesn't work, I'm sorry. You tried something different, you tried something fine, but if it's bad, it's bad.
Yeah, and civilians, not professionals such as ourselves, all say the same thing. Like if you have this character, this new character, Corey, you have to introduce him in the first one. You can't just bring him in on the third one and have him be the center of attention for a whole film.
Yeah.
But they do. They do. He's not mentioned at all in the first two of this trilogy, and then suddenly he's there in the third. So, yes, they do get rid of Michael Myers at the end. They literally grind him up in like some industrial shredder, which is conveniently foreshadowed earlier in the movie. So they physically get rid of Michael Myers. And whoever has the rights now after Blumhouse and Universal will find some new way to continue the story at some point.
Oh,
And that's
sure.
it for that Blumhouse trilogy.
All right.
All right,
Moving
so
on.
let's move on to the Rob Zombie duology.
Okay.
So these films were released in 2007 and 2009, respectively, and also very imaginatively, they were called Halloween and Halloween 2.
I know. The title conundrum of our modern age.
Yeah, and I mean, these are remakes, so it's kind of excusable.
Hmm.
I've never been a huge Rob Zombie fan, but I don't dislike him either. I just wasn't really into the kind of shock rock thing at the time.
Yeah. I,
But
I
you know,
do
he's
think, I just have to say, I do think Devil's Rejects was it succeeds at what it's trying to do. It was
okay.
it was well done on what it was trying to do. The other one, Thousand Corpses and the other stuff, I'm not a big fan of. So yeah, I think he's unfortunately like a one shot kind of filmmaker.
Mm.
Maybe he'll surprise us, but yeah.
Yeah, the Munsters haven't been there yet. I don't know. He made a Munsters film a couple years
Yep.
ago.
Yep.
Um, so apparently there were lots and lots of pitches because after the Jamie Lee Curtis Returns movies, Mustafa Akkad, who owned the rights to the franchise, was trying to decide what do we do next. And they liked Rob Zombie. They had probably seen Devil's Rejects. I think he's friends with John Carpenter. And then Mustafa Akkad was killed in a hotel bombing in Jordan. So the
Yeah.
rights passed on to his son. And so they had taken a lot of pitches. There was all kinds of stuff about like Michael Myers meets Hellraiser, literally. Like there were all kinds of crazy pitches coming in from all kinds of people who were like at the peak of their careers at that time in genre entertainment. And
Yay.
so Rob Zombie won that one and he made his remake. So in brief, it's a confident film that I think he made from the heart and he chose to remake Halloween his way. And I didn't particularly like the first one of his two. The first one is, to be frank, a white trash kid It's like a
Stabs and
70s.
stabs and stabs.
Yeah, and it's like, well, he's kind of a psychotic kid. So PETA, of all things, has commended Rob Zombie, who's apparently a vegan, for indicating that like mental illness, people will abuse animals before they move on to humans. And it's in the film. Like, so he actually got that right, to the fact that to the point that PETA appreciated and thanked him publicly for it.
Mhm.
But I don't know if you could call that entertainment. um, the kid is good in the role, but he's not very appealing to watch doing these things. He talks at the beginning, so it's not like the Michael Myers in the first one, who's basically a mute
Right.
kid. Um, and then the second half of the film is him as a grown up, played by a pro wrestler, Tyler Maine. Not my thing. Um, he's in an asylum. He's been obsessed with masks over all these years, so he's taking the masks as a way to hide. So it's not
Hmm.
just one William Shatner mask. He's just obsessed with making masks.
Okay,
So
that's an idea.
yeah, so the people in the prop department or the art department did a good job with the masks. Like, it's cool looking. But then he breaks free, and the second half of the movie is a remake of the original movie. Pretty much that's it.
Yeah. Mm.
Not as good, not as gripping. Um,
And bloodier.
yeah, it's much more brutal and graphic. It's got Danny Trejo working as, I don't remember, a janitor or something in the asylum. He's like, Michael, no, don't kill me. I was good to you, Michael. You know, so if you like Danny Trejo, you get a good Danny Trejo moment in this movie.
Okay.
But yeah, I can't strongly recommend the remake. The second one is more interesting. I don't know if he shot it on 16 millimeter or super 16.
Yeah.
You know, Rob Zombie really likes that 70s sleaze kind of look and
Yeah. And I
feel.
do too.
Yeah, well, I
Yep.
like the real thing more than kind of recreating it, but he's good
Yeah.
at it, and he's good at it. He knows what he's doing. I think the second film is more imaginative. It's weirder. And in this one, unlike, I didn't mention this, but the Blumhouse trilogy, they Laurie and Michael are not siblings. So it makes no sense in that trilogy that he's stalking her, because she was some random babysitter that he saw for like a minute 40 years ago. So it makes no sense that he
Mm.
spends 40 years trying to go get her again.
Oh, right. The 40 years thing. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so Zombies film has them as siblings, like really distinctly, both movies. So it makes a little more sense that Michael's obsessed about it. Narratively, it works better. It's got fantasy sequences involving like a big white horse and their mother who's passed on, and the spiritual connection among the family members. It's not a great movie, but it feels like he really made something with some art in it.
Yeah.
It
He
was,
experimented.
yeah, I think it was largely panned and kind of forgotten, but
Yeah.
he actually put some real effort into making something that had an almost darkly dreamy feel to it, which I
Yep.
appreciated.
Yeah.
Um, so you know, kudos for that. Again, extremely brutal. This one has the hospital again because it's Halloween 2. There's some killing in the hospital that's like kind of nauseating, stomach turning, turn your head away, kind of sadistic. But that's what it is. And then
Yeah.
your buddy is in this, Alex. Malcolm McDowell takes over
Oh.
for Donald Pleasance as Sam Loomis in these two.
Uh-huh.
So we get two movies with Malcolm McDowell playing, you know, the investigator trying to catch Michael, you know, the psychologist. So that's a pretty good reason to watch. You know, I mean, Malcolm
Yeah.
McDowell, he doesn't just punch the clock. He shows up and does his job.
Yeah.
So so yeah, so
Yes.
I can sort of recommend the second zombie movie if you have a strong stomach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a good call.
So now on to the Jamie Lee Curtis Returns duology. So it's 20
Yes.
years later, and it's 1998. Uh, Scream, which I'm not a fan of, was a
Me
huge
either.
hit. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we
Never
talked about
liked it.
this. Yeah, it just doesn't work for me, that whole franchise. And I've watched five of them, and I tried, and I'm just not on board. I like the fourth one a little bit, but it was because it was like a narcissistic social media person who's like the actual killer who wants the attention. I'm like, that kind of rings true in this world. Um, but Scream, the first one, was a huge hit, regardless of whether or not it's any good. So I think producers were like, well, what do we got? We got some Halloween. Call Jamie Lee Curtis. It's 20 years later. So we basically get a movie that's titled entitled Halloween Water, you know,
Yes.
H2O. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. I think it probably came from James. James Cameron's probably at fault for
Mm,
this because of T2
the
being such
abbreviations.
a
Yep.
big deal.
Yep.
Um, Go see T2. That was a thing in 91 or whatever. So you've seen
Hmm.
Halloween H2O, so
Oh,
would you
sure.
like to lead on this one?
Yes, I would. To me, this was a step up from kind of where the series had been going previous to this. And although I thought just from a aesthetic and directing point of view, it was very average. Not bad, but nothing special. It was just sort of that competent, like small studio picture look and feel.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Unlike the first film, which feels like, an auteur's vision, and he really did a great job. But there are, I like the story and the ideas. I thought it was the right approach to have her still traumatized, but not have her be, a Marine, because
Yeah.
she's a normal human being, and there's no reason for that.
Yeah, she's the
Um,
headmistress of a private school. So
and
that makes sense
I
for a
got,
student.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, I can get behind that. That seems like a place she would go in her life. That
Right.
makes sense to me. And I like her in general as an actress, so it's always great to see her. And I, even though let's see, there are stupid, lame jump scares worked in throughout, which I felt they were annoying and cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And the teens, thank God they weren't unlikable, but they weren't annoying, but I can't say I felt any real attachment to them. It was just kind of a flat line. However, I like the ending. I think they really did something interesting. I think
Mm-hmm.
that whole idea of her finally having had enough, it makes sense psychologically and emotionally, and to just like go after him. And then to have that meta moment of her knowing that once he's in a truck, that it's not going to really be over. He's going to somehow try to escape, even though he was in the ambulance or whatever he was. And she just took it. So it was almost like making a statement on horror movie, the way slashing movies always go is like, he's going to come back. So she knew it, and she took command, and she went after him, and she did not let that happen. And she lopped his head off. And I was like, and even though it's her brother, so there's a sad moment. I thought
Mm-hmm.
that was fine. I thought it was
A paramedic.
acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't decapitate paramedics, even on Halloween. But
But she,
that's the next one where we learn
right.
that.
In this
Yeah.
one, we are meant to think, that she killed him. She killed
Yeah.
Michael
And
Myers.
apparently she didn't want to do this movie, particularly if it led to another sequel. I read online that she
Oh,
was
wow.
kind of opposed to doing this and didn't really want to get caught in the franchise again. But then when she committed to it, she did a great job, obviously. Um, and she's only in the next one just a little bit, obviously. This one's got Adam Arkin, the son of Alan Arkin, as her kind of beau, just kind of a weird casting thing. And I'm like, oh,
Uh-huh.
it's Adam Arkin. Okay, from Northern Exposure. I was seeing him on TV, and I was like, okay, cool. Um, it's got LL Cool J to kind of invite in a bigger demographic, and I'm like,
Sure.
okay, he's the security guy at the school. That's fine.
Yeah.
Overall, I think it's an entertaining film. Steve Miner directed it. I think Carpenter was offered it and he wanted too much money, or they just said, no, we're not going to do that, or whatever happened. There was a business disagreement. And so at that time, he did not return to the franchise. But I think Miner, he's very capable of this sort of thing. So shall we move on to Resurrection?
Yes,
Oh
please.
dear. Okay, so this is a very divisive film. This is Rick Rosenthal returning to the franchise. He directed Halloween 2 back in 1981. And I don't know how they enlisted him again or what. This is a film that is so upsetting to people that John Carpenter has like a hilarious quote online about, oh, I watched that one. Yeah, he said something like, oh God, oh Lord. Oh, that's the one with all the cameras in the house. Oh God, oh Lord. And like it's all it says for the quote. He just really he didn't get it. I was like, this movie, I went to see it like on Third Street Promenade on a sunny afternoon in the middle of summer, and it
Hmm.
entertained me.
Hmm.
It is not a great Halloween movie, but I found it to be an entertaining, schlocky horror movie. Um, I liked Busta Rhymes. I guess they were trying to get like Snoop Dogg because they wanted to
Hmm.
continue getting rappers into the franchise. I don't know. Bob Weinstein was in charge of it at that time at Dimension Films. Busta Rhymes is in it, and he's like, Michael Myers. I ain't taking that shit from no Michael Myers. And I don't know if you knew this, but before I was named Gregory, my parents were considering naming me Busta Rhymes, so I can kind of relate to him. No. named after Saint Busta of the rhymes, of
Mm.
course. But I was good with him in it. I like that. I like the urban house thing. They were probably trying to do a little Blair Witch action because that had been 1999.
Oh,
And
yes.
so, you know, the security cameras from 2002 in this film were probably following on that trend. I think it's an adequately entertaining movie. Um, Not a great film, obviously.
But it doesn't fit into the franchise in any good way, is what you're saying. Like it doesn't
No,
feel like
no.
a
Well,
Halloween installment. And
yeah, if you like the gothic horror aspects of it, the beginning with Jamie Lee Curtis in an asylum, and then Michael comes for her, and they're on a rooftop together. That's pretty good. You
okay,
know, the
yeah.
way this movie begins, the little sort of prologue feels completely different from the rest of the film.
Hmm.
So Halloween
Weird.
Resurrection is kind of a mixed bag, mostly panned, mostly disliked. I found some enjoyment in it on a sunny, hot afternoon, getting out of the heat. Not a great film. Um, so okay, I think we've covered 7 films there, all of the
Yes.
latter part of the franchise. All right, so in the middle here, kind of in between films, I just wanted to take a moment to talk about the locations for these productions because ostensibly most Halloween movies, not all of them, but most, take place in a town called Haddonfield, Illinois, which is named after Deborah Hill's town, one of the writers of the original film, in New Jersey, Haddonfield, New Jersey. There is probably a Haddonfield, Illinois, but I've never heard of it. It's fictional as far as the Halloween universe goes. The Blumhouse trilogy was filmed in the Carolinas, South and North. The zombie films were made in Southern California and Pasadena a little bit like the original one, but mostly in Georgia.
Hmm.
So we got Georgia posing as Illinois, back to Southern California for the H2O movie, and then all the way up to British Columbia for Halloween Resurrection. And the houses change really dramatically. You know, what the Myers house looks like, how the architecture feels, how the interiors look. They change radically from film to film. And now we're going to go into what's kind of unofficially or officially called the Thorn trilogy. And these 3 films were made in Utah, posing as Illinois.
Mm. Hmm.
All
Wow.
right. So yeah, Halloween really gets around, but I don't think they've
Yes.
ever shot a frame of film in actual Illinois.
Probably not. No, no, they haven't.
Now, John Hughes probably didn't let him in. I don't know.
Um, yeah, as long as it feels like that suburban, mysterious Halloween night feeling, which is exactly the Halloweens I grew up with. As long as I'm getting that atmosphere from the movies, I'm okay with it.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. And in fact, Halloween 4, which you're going to take the lead on here, starts off with a beautiful montage of like Halloween imagery.
Oh, wonderful montage at the beginning, and a lot
Yeah.
of like farmland, country Halloween imagery too, which I thought
Mhm.
was raw and realistic and effective.
Yeah, it
I
really
loved it.
sets the tone. It launches the new trilogy, which I don't even know if they knew they were going to make a trilogy, but it launches it really confidently.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so I really like Halloween 4 a lot. It'd be my second favorite film of the entire franchise. Um, Clearly inferior to the original. As much as I will say a lot of things that work up and that the important things do work well. And there are still a lot of things that did not quite make the cut. I thought, but it overall, it's a thrilling. It feels like a Halloween movie, which is very hard to do. It delivers on all those things you kind of expect, and it actually does it in a way that is suspenseful, effective, and filled with tension and thrills. Because it's directed well. The standout scene being the climax, the whole climax. That's the classic Halloween climax, where you
Mhm.
go from one location to the next, and Michael just barely evading Michael, and it has to
Mhm.
feel realistic. It has to feel like Michael actually almost gets you, but really genuinely can't get to you. Then you're running off to the next place so that the locations keep changing to keep it fresh and exciting. The little girl was phenomenal, Danielle Harris. She really seemed scared. She really seems like frantic and upset. And that the climax was great. I was like, this is like Laurie Strode running through the house at the end of the first Halloween film.
Yeah, yeah, without being redundant, it's not exactly literally the same story, but it's the same general paradigm. So
Yes.
they knew what to do and they knew how to do it. Dwight Little was the director,
Hmm.
and Ellie Cornell plays the kind of older sister character, and she's terrific in this for Danielle Harris as Jamie. Because they didn't have Jamie Lee Curtis anymore because she was off doing True Lies or whatever. So uh,
Hmm.
I think she's officially dead in this franchise. And then it's
Right.
and then in H2O they say, oh well, it was a ruse to keep her safe, so she's called Carrie Tate now as a headmistress. But
I
so she's
remember that.
not in these three films,
Right.
as far as I know, at all. And
Which another kudos to the writers and filmmakers to make it work, but we don't need Jamie Lee Curtis, but it still felt like a Halloween movie and it worked.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's an admirable effort, and I think Mustafa Akkad, the producer, was very pleased. So he rushed into the fifth one, which I think was an error because they didn't really think about the script enough for the fifth one. But is there anything else you want to
Eh,
address about the fourth one?
let's see really quick.
Yeah,
A bunch of little details. The mask doesn't look quite as good. It's a little too clean and stuff. But
yeah,
still, the way when he shows up, it still got my heart pumping. It's because it was directed well. It played on all the cliches, sort of set up in the first movie mainly, the first two, I guess. And I didn't when you see them do a cliche, but they make it work. Like, oh, he's gonna sit up and turn his head. When it works, it's usually I would
yeah,
criticize that, but when it works, I'm kind of like, I don't mind the cliches once in a while if they work because they're fun. So anyway, I think that's kind of overall. I have a little criticisms, but ultimately, I recommend this movie.
yeah. And whoever's playing Michael Myers in this one was doing his crunches to do those sit-ups. Um,
Yeah, he
and this
sits up
one,
so much.
this one yet again pretty much ends with his demise.
Yeah, oh
Um,
yeah.
and if you haven't seen it, hey, we're going to mention the ending briefly, or I will. It doesn't work between 4 and 5 because what they set up is this notion that Jamie, played by Danielle Harris, has taken on the evil of, I guess it's her uncle. I don't remember exactly, but
I think it's her uncle. Yes,
yeah, she touches Michael Myers' hand.
I think.
And so it's kind of like when you tap your device against someone else's device and it shares the info. We didn't have phones like that at that time. But so she touches her uncle and the evil is transferred.
Mm.
And so I love Donald Pleasance, from all his classic English horror. I think he's, no offense to Daniel Harris, but I think he's kind of the MVP for me in these three movies. Is you got Sam Loomis doing the histrionics, and I love that. Like
Okay.
I love watching him lose it. And at the end of the movie, he can barely get one syllable out, the word no. He sees Daniel
Eh,
Harris with a bloody knife, and he's like, no,
I loved him at the end of
no.
Halloween 4. I made a
Yeah,
note of that.
it's
Yep.
just great.
He's
It's
out.
just like,
He goes for it. It's great.
yeah, he's completely invested. He's done a lot of different roles. He was in Sergeant Pepper. He plays like a music producer in '78.
Oh, and
He's done
and
all
I
kinds of things.
absolutely love him in Wake in Fright, an
I haven't
underknown
seen it.
Australian film. He is phenomenal. The movie is a must see, in my opinion. Anyway, yeah.
Wow. From Beyond the Grave was on TCM a couple nights ago, and he's in that too. And I'm like, oh, there's Donald Pleasance again. So it must be Donald Pleasance season.
Hmm.
But without getting into it, because I don't want to corrupt the first two movies, but apparently Christopher Lee was offered the role of Sam Loomis and turned it down and said it was the biggest regret of his career.
Financially
Well, yeah, I don't know
as
what
well.
Donald Pleasance was making on this, but yeah, but he actually really shows
Royalties.
up and like does his job in these first six. Well, I guess he's not in the third one, but he's in the first
Right.
five other ones. So
Well, yeah,
yeah,
I think we could, if unless you have more to say, I think we could move on to 5 because I actually do want to comment a little bit on Loomis in 5 and 6, but
yeah, by
I'll
all
let you
means.
start.
Oh, that's fine. Five, not as good as four, just frankly. So it's almost like they're stealing titles from the Pink Panther series because we got the Return of Michael Myers, then we have the Revenge of Michael Myers, but they skipped my favorite one, Michael Myers Strikes Back or Strikes Again.
Oh, that's
The
the
Pink Panther Strikes Again.
fourth one.
That's
That's would have
probably
been
my.
yeah, right.
So they skipped Strikes Again for whatever reason, but
Uh,
um, the fifth one has Danielle Harris again as Jamie, but now she's mute because of the trauma, and she has a psychic link to Michael Myers that Sam Loomis is going to try to exploit to help him find Michael Myers, who for one full year has been living like under a waterfall or something with a homeless guy who has like a parrot. I haven't seen it in a while, but
Yeah,
they,
something
for some
stupid.
reason, like without any food or nourishment, Michael Myers just like sits in a coma or something for a year and then wakes up the next Halloween and immediately kills his host and then goes off and does his thing again. So that's how five begins. It
Yeah,
does not build on the idea of Jamie taking on the evil.
a real shame because I did like that ending and I was excited for seeing that continue properly.
Yeah, and she, the actress, said I think at some like convention or something that she likes doing. She liked doing the fifth one, and she was a kid at the time, but she wished that it could have been like her and Michael Myers as a duo,
Yeah,
going off, and that would have
something.
been. Maybe they were afraid of that at the time. Maybe it was just too disturbing. I don't know, but they did not take that route. They hired some French guy, Dominique. I don't have his name in front of me, but it's not like the
Yes,
French know anything
Dominique
about
Oberon.
cinema.
Yep. Oh, the mm-hmm.
um, I think they just kind of rushed it to get one out the following year. I wasn't paying any
Yes,
attention at this time. 1988, 89 was really not looking at these movies. I looked at them much later on video.
yes.
I like that they tried to build a mythos and that they tried to kind of, dig into the character, especially in the sixth one. I don't think it's all successful, but in a comic book kind of tawdry pop culture kind of way, I like that about five and six.
Oh, interesting. Hmm.
I like that about it, but I don't think that they play very well as believable, like plausible, motivated characters.
Right, right. Well, it's funny. So this movie, and but you say rushed out, and that makes perfect sense. This movie has probably my biggest slasher movie pet peeve ever, and it has it in spades. There is this gigantic chunk of filler in the middle, but it's that particular kind of slasher movie filler that I cannot stand, and it's in a lot of Friday the 13th. It might be the worst ever in this movie.
It's got a
It's
barn
the
too, just
barn.
like Jason
And it's
has
in
a
a barn.
barn. They
It's
stole
also in a barn.
Jason Voorhees' barn.
I don't know why they all do it. I think it's
It's a
because it's a
barn
big, dark,
movie.
shadowy place. They're like, let's get a barn and let's have these stupid teens sneaking around, like going,
Right.
hey, where'd you guys go? Hey, where are you guys? And that goes on for 10 minutes. And then, zah, one guy jumps out. It's a jump scare. It's one of her teen friends.
Right.
Then exactly seconds later, like there's nothing in between. Then they walk out, but another teen character is going, "Hey, wait, where'd you guys go?" And that goes another 10 minutes in the
Mm.
barn. And then her boyfriend jumps out dressed as Michael Myers, which makes no logical sense. It's
No.
stupid. And
No.
then and then they still sneak around or something. And then finally the real Michael Myers. It's so boring. It's so lacking in suspense. It's just like, yeah, this is the time you go out for a 20-minute popcorn break or something. I don't know. It's terrible.
Yeah, no, I can't help but concur. I'm pretty lenient and generous toward pulpy entertainment. I think more so than you in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, Resurrection, it entertained me for a little while. This entertained me for a little while. But I think they really needed to go back and fix that script.
Oh
And
yeah, it
and they
comes from
kill
the script.
off the older sister early in the movie. So it gets transferred from Ellie Cornell to a new female lead named Wendy Kaplan is the actress. And so it's disorienting because you're like, wait a minute, we were all on board with Jamie's older sister, and now
We
she's
were, and
dead.
I kind of liked her. Yeah,
Yeah, and no offense to the new actress, but it was disorienting. I was like, wait, why didn't
yeah.
you just keep the one that we already kind of knew?
And there wasn't any good writing for her character, so I felt like there was no opportunity for me to real start to care about her or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
So that was a pretty
And
big issue.
I do want to say about Loomis. I think at the end, and it's not Donald Pleasence's fault because he's a great actor. But it's the script and the direction. This time his over the topness, I just couldn't buy it. I could not buy that he's going to hold up a screaming Jamie and bait Michael Myers with her. I think they're on a staircase or something, and just the whole way that scene played out, it felt comedy to me. It felt like comedic and absurd and silly and
Yeah, and that house they're in
awful.
doesn't look anything like the Myers house. It's like this gigantic house with like a coal chute or something to the basement. It's got a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
weird interior stuff that's not part of the original house at all. So yeah, I think it's that symptom of a director taking over a franchise where they just kind of lay their own intent over the original material instead of honoring what was there and building on it. And you see
Yes,
this all
like
the
the
time,
fourth one
Star
did.
Wars or Alien Earth on TV. I just noticed this. It happens all the time where someone
Hmm.
has like their goal of the story they want to tell and they use the franchise as like a foundation to tell what they want to do. And I got that from Halloween 5, certainly.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
Makes
it's
sense.
the main characters are familiar, so like I rode with it. I was like, this is pretty entertaining, but it was disappointing overall, I think. um
Okay.
I like Halloween 6, even though it's
I
not
know you
called
do.
that.
I
Yeah, I'm a
let's hear
strange
a little
one.
bit.
Halloween
Y-
isn't even called 6, it's called Halloween, the Curse of Michael Myers. And I think there's a Curse of the Pink Panther too, now that I think of it.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, yeah, so they all connect. And they should have combined the two. But this one has Marianne Hagen as Kara Strode, another woman in the Strode family. And she has a young son in this one. And she has an abusive father. And so there's family dynamics in it that are pretty interesting. And it's got Kim Darby in it doing a riff on Jaws, where she's like, you knew the Chief Brody thing
Right. And you
is
let
in
them
this
go
movie.
swimming anyway.
Yeah, this is, you knew this was the Myers house. You knew. She does the total thing from Jaws in this. I was like, well, okay, steal from the best if you're going to do it. But the gist of this one is that Tommy Doyle, played amazingly by Paul Rudd, who basically disowns this movie. And I think he should be proud of it.
Mm.
He is like this supernatural scholar who's studying astrology and the constellations to learn when Michael Myers will strike because of the cult of Thorn that's introduced at the very, very end of part 5 with
Yeah.
a tattoo on an arm of the man in black. Like it's not explained at all what's going on. So the guy who took over with this, I think his name is Farans. I have his Daniel Farans or Farans. Kudos to him because he actually tried to synthesize all of the Halloween material up to that point into a cogent story.
Okay.
And that's hard to do, because
Oh,
it had run off the
almost
tracks.
impossible.
By point six, it had run off the tracks even almost as much as it did in the later films. Um, but yeah, I like the supernatural element. I like Paul Rudd's seriousness in this film. He totally commits
Yeah.
to that character doing that stuff.
Yeah. Thank God it
Um,
wasn't, he didn't play campy. That's a good thing.
yeah, he wasn't even known yet, especially as a comedian, but not at all. He just basically was starting off like Kevin Bacon in the first Friday the 13th. Like no one really knew who he was. Like, oh, that guy from Animal House. Um, so yeah, I like Marianne Hagen a lot in this. Apparently the Weinsteins didn't like her. They thought she had too pointy of a face or something. And I think she totally commits to this role and carries the movie very well. Um, and I like that Donald Pleasance, pretty much at not only the end of his career, but the end of his life, showed up and totally committed one last time.
I know. But
And
I think
there's
it's
there's a
sad
charm
that the
to it.
writing of his character is so bad, and the poor guy is forced to say all that silly dialogue, warning people over and over. And now his voice is very strained and constrained, because he's older, and
Oh yeah,
it just
it
came
definitely
off.
doesn't have the vocal capacity that he had as a younger man.
Yeah, it didn't come off well to me. Again, not his fault, but it didn't come off well. But no, very little came off well to me. Like the mean father of Kara.
Mhm.
I thought was one of the most laughably ridiculous antagonistic characters I've ever seen. Like
Okay.
I'm bad person. I'm bad. Oh, he's just a walking cliche, spouting stupid lines, and oh, look at how bad he is. It wasn't believable at all.
That's fine. This is me being generous to a movie that probably doesn't deserve it, and I do this a
Oh,
lot.
and that's fine.
You
That's
know,
fun. I like
yeah,
that. I like it.
yeah. So I
But
don't mind the nitpicks or
I
even
want it.
harsh criticism of this because I think it's totally deserved. It's kind of like when there's music that's kind of bad pop music or something, but I find charm in it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
But
that happens.
you could also eviscerate it and say this is the worst song ever written. It's terribly produced. So you could go either way. And I
Right.
feel that way about a lot of these kinds of movies where I'm like, yeah, like I want to sometimes go to a B movie, have the drive-in feeling, have a Saturday matinee kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Um,
But when
Halloween
you're
6 is not a nice movie though. I mean, it's a pretty harsh movie for that kind of feeling.
It
Uh,
is. There are some things in it. I want to ask you then what you think of the ending. And let me very quickly preface. Um, I don't want to go into this because everyone kind of knows and it'll take too long. But yeah, there are two cuts of the movie. There's the producer's cut and then the theatrical cut.
mhm,
And we won't go into how that all went down. But the point is, the only one I could really get my hands on was the producer's cut. So my
mhm,
ending is the one where Michael Myers is stopped by a little bit of like rocks on the ground that are supposed to be a magical spell, and he can't walk out of that circle. And
mhm.
that was the one I saw. But then on YouTube, I saw, I think it's the other version is Paul Rudd takes or maybe it's in this
Like a
version too,
pipe.
a pipe, and I
Yeah,
saw that.
yeah.
But the point is, the cut I used was the magical rocks. Now, what do you think of the ending?
Well, let me preface it by saying I think the Weinsteins really enjoyed recutting other people's films. They did it with Cinema Paradiso. I
Oh,
mean, they recut things and they like to do that. That's what they did. They owned Dimension Films. Bob Weinstein, he could do that. So the theatrical cut, I think, was his vision. I was not present for any of those meetings. I don't know. I think I prefer the producer's cut. Um, they probably said, "What is this hoodoo? This crazy like rune stuff?" And I'm like, well, they set up this man in black and this thorn symbol, and you got to go somewhere with it. Um, I think the producer's cut does a more admirable job of exploring that tawdry mythology.
well, that's true. I can't argue with that.
The actual ending, I would prefer the producer's cut. Um,
But
I
don't you think
think
it deflates Michael? He's just some guy standing there, like, oh, it's not what I want from Halloween. I don't want Thorn at all, basically. And I think a lot of people also didn't.
Yeah, once they had it though, I thought they did well with what
Right.
they had to do, as opposed to Paul Rudd hitting him with a pipe
That's
in like
terrible.
a crazy
Also,
lab.
terrible.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, they're both, I mean, I don't like to use cliches about movies, but they're both very, very flawed films, the theatrical and the producers. So, I like what they tried to do. It felt like they were trying to infuse it, much like Halloween 3, with some of the old British weird pagan witchcraft type stuff. And I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, if you want to go that direction, that's
If it
probably,
felt like a Hammer
yeah,
film, I would have gotten into it, but
yeah, it
it didn't.
doesn't. It doesn't. I think that was the attempt, but I don't think that was very well comprehended in Hollywood. So we got what we got. Um, I support that they tried, and
Mhm.
I enjoyed watching it, but I think they replaced Daniel Harris,
Ah,
with some other actress, and then like what happens to her midway through the film, so she's not really even in the movie very much.
right.
The Jamie
Doesn't he
character,
have sex with her? Isn't that what happens?
I think it's pretty
And it's
gross.
his
Yeah.
niece. Yeah, that's
So
also
it's so
bad.
it's an incestuous baby that Paul Rudd is shepherding to
Terrible.
salvation, and I'm like, okay, well, the 90s, it was not a pretty decade,
Yeah.
and a
Oh,
lot
well,
of
I know.
hellish
Again,
stuff came down the pike, and so
you
this
could
is
make a
part of that.
serious, interesting movie about that very thing and do it, take it respectfully and deal with that subject matter. It's fine. But in this movie, I was like, what? No, that's just unnecessarily gross and uncomfortable. No.
I don't love that. You know what?
Yeah.
I didn't bring it up. I didn't even remember it. I forgot that part. It just like I didn't even really want to think of it. I like Paul Rudd obsessing over the computer and going, no, the constellation of Thorn is coming back. And that explains why Michael is part of this thing. And I enjoyed that about the movie. But yeah, I'm not a big proponent of incestuous babies.
I know that.
Um, yeah, do you have anything else on 4, 5, or 6?
No, I don't think
It
so.
sounds like Elvis Costello. He's got a line. He was up to his old tricks in chapters 4, 5, and 6. Yeah.
Ooh, good
They should
call.
have used that from Every Day I Write the Book, but they probably couldn't afford the royalties, or the licensing.
Hmm.
So let's proceed to Halloween 3.
Yeah, Season of the Witch.
Yes, which is claimed online to have been taken from George Romero's Season of the Witch, but it's weird that nobody references the Donovan song. Like,
Oh yeah,
how does
right.
anyone not know that song? So it's kind of like obviously Romero had heard it to use the title. It's
He did.
older than his movie, but anyway, so Romero gets the credit for that, even though Donovan did his earlier. Um, so let's go with Tommy Lee Wallace, who designed the very first Halloween mask out of the William Shatner mask. He took over as director for this movie because Joe Dante quit Halloween 3 to go work on his segment of the Twilight
Twilight
Zone
Zone.
movie. Yeah, so Dante had a script from Nigel Neal that the producers didn't understand, and they wanted to make it more violent and more gory. So we have the movie that we have. Paul, would you like to introduce Halloween 3?
Yes, I would. This one is lots of people have very polarized opinions about. I don't like it, but I think it's kind of hilariously fun in some ways. It's so yes, okay. I want to say this. I don't care at all that Michael Myers isn't in it. That has zero to do with me not liking it or liking it. It has
Yeah, here,
nothing
here.
to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Just judge it on its own merits,
yeah,
right?
let's just look at it on its own merit. And on its own merits, it's a ridiculous mess that makes no sense. It's insane. It's hilariously bizarre and insane, but in a sloppy, lazy way from a screenwriting standpoint. They could have
Mm-hmm.
easily tied some things together and made the story be somewhat cohesive. Instead, it's just wild, nonsensical. The way that the way that the main character destroys the whole situation. He doesn't even know what he's doing. He just sneaks in and sees some computer chips, throws them at a TV monitor. Suddenly that destroys the whole operation. Thing after thing after thing where you're like, what the hell am I watching? And then I don't understand the guy's Silver Shamrock's plan at all. It's like I know he's trying to evoke. He's working with some ancient evil energies, and he wants to bring back some kind of an evil sacrifice for Halloween, like it said in the ancient Irish myth of Halloween or something like that, right? And he's and so his plan is there's no reason that the computer chip on the mask and the flashing TV screen would make bugs and snakes come out of your stomach and out of your mouth. That must be the magic part. And to me, the magic and the technology did not mix at all. They should have picked one. Um,
But you
I'm
don't have any Halloween masks with a tiny chip of Stonehenge inserted into the
Yeah,
computer
right,
chip?
yeah.
You don't have that?
It
I
starts
mean, that's
out
totally
he
normal. Everybody
steals
has those.
Stonehenge, and yet they don't make a big deal out of it. Like, oh yeah, he just stole it and he has
He
it now. And
stole a big stone from Stonehenge and had it shipped
eh,
to California.
there it is. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He just did
but
that.
you do these things. You got to do these things. If
No
you're
one cared.
originally Nigel Neal's script, I read about this. The Connell Cochran character, played by Dan O'Herlihy, who's pretty good in the role. He doesn't like the movie,
Oh
but
yeah, he's
he
good.
got to use his Cork accent. Apparently, I don't know the Cork accent, but apparently that's how he's speaking.
Mhm.
Um, he apparently is supposed to be in the original script before producers got it and said change this, change this, change this. He was supposed to be a 3,000-year-old demon posing as a man who
That
takes
makes
over.
already that makes a little more sense.
Yeah,
It,
so he's got a
because
motivation
he has
to destroy
powers
humans or whatever. And you don't get any of that in the movie that we got, but you do get that he's insane, and
and a
potentially
genius,
lethal. Yeah, a pretty weird genius, but
a
yes,
weird genius. Yep,
yes. And I mean, you got to do more of your research, Paul. And
I have
then,
that book,
isn't that great?
Halloween 3. Yep,
It's one that didn't disappear. I'm pleased to own this
I did. I
from
don't think I read it, but yeah.
Jack Martin, who was really Dennis Etchison, the horror writer. He did this and two novelizations under his pseudonym. Pretty
Hmm.
great writer, actually. Um, but he took the gigs for cash like that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, so I mean, listeners might not even get it. So Halloween 3 is about a doctor played by Tom Atkins,
Hmm.
he stumbles upon the fact that something mysterious is happening with a novelty company called Silver Shamrock that is producing Halloween masks that kids are obsessed with because
Yeah.
of a hypnotic television commercial that sings a little tune, and all the kids follow it like the Pied Piper, and they have to have these masks, which he does not buy for his kids. He buys them masks that disappoint them, and they've already got their Silver Shamrock ones. What we don't know at the
Yes.
beginning is that it's all a devilish plot to destroy children with Halloween masks because of reason.
Because, well, yeah, something though about Halloween, the ancient Halloween, it needed a sacrifice for
A pretty big
the
one,
big demon.
apparently.
So I guess this is his sacrifice of all the children that are going to watch the commercial.
I think the fact that it's
Uh,
bonkers is of great appeal to me.
it
Um,
that has some appeal to me too. It
yeah,
does.
I don't always want to watch bonkers things. Like if the people seem completely like idiots, it's hard for me to watch bonkers things.
Right.
But this had some integrity at its foundation where they were telling a story, but they kind of lost their grip on it. Um,
Yeah,
I think the story itself is a weird, nightmarish thing that only someone very creative could have come up with. But then I think it got mangled through various producers, screenwriters, and the director
probably.
into what we received. Um,
Yes.
and if you can believe this, my father took me to see this movie in 1982. Um, I was like, really, Dad? Okay. And we went and saw
Cool.
Halloween 3 Season of the Witch together, believe it or not. We had very little to say afterward.
Oh,
um, but I kind of developed a fondness for it because of its strangeness. That's
mm,
really what got me. I was like, okay, they're trying to make a Halloween anthology series, which is a great idea. Now we have more media than we can even watch, and a lot of it's pretty good. But at the time, 40 years ago, the idea of a new Halloween movie every year with a different story, pretty good idea. They just didn't follow up on it because this one tanked because it was so confusing and weird.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so uh, good praise to this movie for trying, in my opinion.
yeah.
And again, I'm being generous to a movie that's a
It-
mess,
It's a
but it's a
mess story-wise.
fascinating mess.
It is fascinating. It's memorable. I will never forget the Silver Shamrock theme and those masks, and it is memorable. It's a mess, but also just like scene for scene, it doesn't really work. Like when our the main character man, like he's a doctor, right?
Yes.
Yeah, when he meets a girl and then they make love in some hotel room or something.
Yeah.
And not for 1 second do you
It's
believe
Woody
their
Allen's
relationship.
ex-girlfriend.
Is that who is it is?
Stacy Nelkin. Yeah.
Okay. You
Yeah.
never for 1 second do you believe their relationship. All the dialogue doesn't sound like real people talking
There's a
to each other.
huge age gap between them too.
There's a huge age gap and the
Yeah.
good writing and then acting could have sold it and it could have been
Yeah, but
believable.
they didn't
It
do the
was not.
rehearsals for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not even a good movie, even just in that sense, like the characters and the dialogue.
Yeah, and
Um,
you're more of a stickler for this because I think that's something I'll gloss over where I'll go like, okay, I buy it well enough to keep watching. But you're looking for those character motivations to see if you buy them or not, more than
yes.
I am for tawdry entertainment like this. Like
Yes. I
if
can't
I'm
help
watching
it.
Kramer versus Kramer or Ordinary People, I'm like, okay, you believe it.
Right.
In this, I'm not as concerned about believing it because there are like robot men trying to kill children with Halloween masks that make bugs come out of their mouth. And I'm like, I'm not looking for the real sense of the human experience in this movie, but I'll
I hear
gladly
you.
see it in a different movie. So yeah, it's sort of a distinction.
I hear you. Yeah. I guess I just check out. I can't help myself. It's just how my psychology is made. I check out if I can't suspend my disbelief at least a little bit in the way
Mhm.
that the movie is asking me to. And
Right,
when
right.
so I have to have that for me to like the film.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, this is probably the most divisive film in the whole franchise.
Yeah.
So,
But
you know,
definitely nowhere near the worst. Nowhere near,
no,
in my
no,
opinion.
no, 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 no. It's early 80s. It's still got that kind of feel from the cinema of the 70s left in it.
Hmm.
It's eerie. It's got some good qualities to it. Um, so a valiant attempt, even if it stumbles a lot. So we are proceeding now to the original 1978 film Halloween, directed by John Carpenter, written with Deborah Hill. And then we will also include Halloween 2 from 3 years later in 1981.
Yes. Yes. I'm very excited about this as I think all Halloween fans, we all love the original.
Mhm.
And even though there was also the extended version that was shot at the same time, there were extra scenes shot for the first Halloween when Halloween 2 was going into production. And that was so Halloween, the original had like a longer cut that was shown on television.
Mhm.
And I've seen that. And though I felt the scenes were well done and integrated well, I mostly didn't think that they were necessary, and occasionally I felt like they deflated the mystery and mystique of Michael and were probably not necessary. I wanted to get that out of the way first because I don't know how you feel, but I think we should just talk about the original release.
Yeah, I concur. The TV stuff, all I remember of the TV stuff was the scene at the asylum where um, Loomis is telling Michael he knows, what's going on and he can see through his facade that he's behaving well. But what else is there? I don't even remember what the other TV footage was.
Lori, Hank goes back to like PJ Souls' house and they hang out and talk about what they're going to wear, and she has to borrow a
Oh
piece of clothing,
yeah, I
and it
remember now.
works
Yeah,
well. I was like, this
yeah,
doesn't look like it's 2, 3 years later. This still feels like the original Halloween. I thought it was well done, but not necessary.
yeah. It didn't really enhance anything plot wise. It was just a little more character stuff. I mean, they're very charming as actresses, so it was fine. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think the movie's theatrical cut is what we should discuss, certainly.
Okay. I,
So,
I don't even know what to say except that I absolutely love this movie. One of my all-time favorite films. I think it's brilliantly directed. I think John Carpenter knew exactly how to slowly build tension and suspense and did a perfect job of it. The choreography of all of the kind of chase, like the big climax, of course, with Laurie Strode and Michael, all that stuff was very well done. Good use of shadows, the right use of lenses, the right use of editing and pacing. The music was perfect. These are not easy things to do. It takes a real handle on the tools of cinema, the filmmaking tools and skills, and he had it. And it feels like an auteur's passionate vision, something he really thought was scary himself. He knew it would scare you. It does. It doesn't feel like it's a studio committee, forcing things into it. It has a strange quality about it, almost like Beatles music. I know that sounds funny, where I could watch this movie 100 times and it somehow never gets old. It
mm,
always ropes me in. I'm always in the environment. I'm always, feeling that Halloween feeling, like all of my childhood Halloweens when I was growing up in suburbia. It really, no other movie brings it so much to the forefront than this one. And
mhm,
I'm always biting my nails with real tension at the end, always, even my
mhm.
50th viewing, So that's my kind of introduction to how I feel about it. And then we can get into details and things. And I would like to hear what you have to say.
That's just there's so much about this film. It's part of the landscape of classic horror. For a little independent film that could, basically. Because, when you think about horror from that time period, there are some titles that leap to mind: Psycho, The
Oh,
Exorcist.
yes.
They're just films where you go, that's a classic, or The Shining from 1980.
Yep,
And this fits in among them perfectly,
it
even
does.
though it's about teenagers in suburbia. It doesn't really have like the same scale in some of its themes initially as those films. Maybe a motel with a weird guy in it is a little simple, but um, it's a great credit to everyone involved that they were able to make a classic on a shoestring. A
Yes.
$300,000 budget. Akkad, I think, was the financier, and Irwin Yablans was the producer. And the stories go back and forth on whether or not it was initially pitched as the babysitter murders. I saw an interview with Yablans maybe sitting like out on his ranch somewhere, and he said that it was his idea to make it set on Halloween. Now, whether that was at the
Yep,
beginning of the
I've heard that.
scripting process or if it was later and they enhanced it with that, I don't know. Um, it's also a credit to them that in the springtime in
Yeah,
Pasadena, California, they
sure.
were able to completely deliver the illusion of a Midwestern chilly Halloween night.
They were.
I
Yeah,
mean, they really
you can
pulled that
feel the
off.
chill. And
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
works.
So, I mean, it's an effective movie. It's, it's a Halloween and holiday movie par excellence. Like they got it all right,
Yes. Yes.
and given what they were working with, that's kind of miraculous.
It is. It is. And there are some things about it I want to say. I feel like most people love this movie, but some don't quite get it. And I often hear like, well, nothing happens story-wise for 40 minutes, like just the first 40, whatever it is. Nothing really happens. It's just maybe my personal taste, but it's like honey to me to just watch Laurie Strode walking around the neighborhood and the leaves are blowing and I'm with her. And then she meets up with some friends and they just talk about mundane stuff and they're moving around. I get to look at how the school looks when when Tommy is there and I get to see the neighborhood streets. And then you see all the jack-o'-lanterns and then the girls do what they would normally do to get ready for a Halloween night. And I just love taking my time with them and getting into that environment, and that never gets old. I can watch that movie 100 times. I love all of that slow stuff at the beginning. Just personally, I
Mhm.
love it. It's cinematic to me.
I don't even think I'd never thought of it as being slow. It builds that environment for you. But I mean, when Michael escapes from the asylum with the stealing the car and everything, I mean, it's quite a bit of action right there to keep people hooked. And that's early in the film, you know.
Yes,
There
is
is.
is that in the original cut or is that the
Oh
TV?
yeah, yeah, that's
Okay, that
definitely
is. I'm getting
theatrical cut.
confused.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that because Loomis has that, like, I think Wynn, who becomes the Man in Black much later in like the fifth movie, and sixth, I guess. He's like, he doesn't even know how to drive a car, and Donald Pleasance as Loomis goes, he was doing very well last night, you know,
Yeah.
because like
Yeah.
he's this kid's been in an asylum his whole life. He breaks out at age 21 or whatever Michael is in this film,
Yeah.
and he's never had driving lessons. He doesn't know anything about it, but somehow he knows how to drive the car. So they bring that into the film, so it kind of isn't a question that nags at you like, how did he learn how to drive? Like, they bring it up in the context of the film. We don't know, and it's not even that important,
Right.
that
Right.
particular point. But it is pretty active and scary early in the film.
It is.
um
It is.
and it's it's kind of like a little dollop of that in the rest of it, exploring suburbia and getting to know the kids.
Yes, and the
Yeah,
girl, I think it's Amy or her name is the other friend, not PJ Souls, and her dad's like a policeman in the town, and it feels very
yeah.
lived in and real.
Brackett, Amy Brackett, yeah.
Yes, Amy
And
Brackett.
Sheriff Brackett, right? Because he's the
Yes,
one with the, everyone needs one good scare.
everyone's entitled to one good
And
scare. One of my
yeah, you got
favorite
the quote
lines.
right. Yes, thank you.
Um,
So yeah, so the Brackett thing is part of the story. You know, the characters were written, I think Deborah Hill did a lot of the writing of the dialogue, especially for the girls, which is
yeah.
probably why it comes across a lot more plausibly. I think there was sort of a separation of powers between Carpenter and her and how
Hmm.
they created the script. And it feels
Interesting.
like it. Like, they both played to their strengths instead of trying to do something that maybe wasn't their strengths.
Yeah, the
They did that very
construction of
well.
what these girls are doing on a Halloween night felt real.
Mhm.
The performances, okay, Jamie Lee Curtis, perfect, brilliant, no problems. But yeah, I mean, come on, PJ Souls is not good in it.
Totally.
She's really bad, and she doesn't own that totally thing. Like it doesn't sound like it's her manner of speaking. It's just something the script said she has to
It's
do.
really early, though. I usually associate that with the 80s, but this was already totally in 78.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because we
Yeah,
think
maybe
Valley
it
Girl.
started to concretize that, that totally, because it really didn't emerge on the landscape for a few years after that, but it was already there
Yeah.
in
And
78.
then the other, and Amy, the actress who plays her, better than PJ Souls, but not that good. And my thinking is, it's not even my thinking, my feeling is the movie is so strong and it delivers everything it needs to deliver to make a good horror film that those things just disappear into the ether. It doesn't matter that PJ Souls is terrible. Doesn't matter at all. The
Terrible. I
movie
think I think
works.
she brings some gifts to this
Well,
film
yeah, that's true.
in other ways.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and the "where's my beer" part, I totally buy it at that point, when
Uh,
she starts to get freaked out.
She's good in that scene. You're right.
Yeah.
And when he
Um,
shows up with the glasses on the ghost sheet
yeah.
costume, yep. And it's
You know what
scary.
though? It just occurred to me, though, we may have listeners. There might be like 5 or 6 people on Earth who have never seen this film. So we
Mm-hmm.
should probably tell them what it's about, because we went
Oh,
directly to the details.
yes. Should I do it?
Yeah,
Or
please, by all means.
well, it's only it's like a day or two before Halloween, I think, and we're in a suburban neighborhood and we are focusing on three high school girls. And one of them starts to see a masked man during the day, just standing in the distance of these isolated streets. Sometimes she'll spot him and he's looking at her. And then she'll, kind of turn her head and look back, and he's sort of gone. Not supernaturally. It's like he walked away or hid behind bushes. And this man keeps following. She notices him and is slowly driving by in a car in front of her house, and it's a little weird, but And then it's really just about her being stalked by this guy. I'm not even going to go into the that reasons, because there really aren't any, barely, and there shouldn't be.
Hmm.
We'll talk about that. But I she and then Halloween night happens and they have their boyfriends over and all these things happen, and but Lori, our main character, has to babysit some kids. And Lori is a little bit the more intelligent, bookish one, but not to any extreme. They're all realistic people. They're not
Hmm.
caricatures.
Right.
And she, they tell her, you should have a date like us on Halloween. You don't go out enough with boys. And she's like, well, I don't know. And they don't really like me. Anyway, so she's babysitting and she's a wonderful babysitter. She's good with the kids. And then, the big climate, I mean, this guy tries to kill her. And she's stalked and she's chased through the neighborhood and through the houses and through the rooms. And it's very, very effective.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And the only clue we have is that she has to leave a key on the porch of the old Myers house where he committed his crime as a child.
At the
And
beginning, near the beginning of the movie, she does
and
this.
and the boy that she's going to babysit that night says, "Don't go up there. Like that's a spook house or whatever. You don't
Yeah.
go up on that porch." And Myers is inside and sees her
Yes.
at that time.
Right. We never see him really. It's a POV and we kind of catch the back of his head in shadow or something, but
Right,
he's
right.
looking out the window. She can't see him. But we're
Hmm.
like, oh, weird. There's a man in there, I think, looking at her. And that's so he sets his what we are led to just sort of assume is that he kind of set his sights on her. And he's
Hmm.
a killer. He's got urges and he's gonna go. Now, there is an opening scene of him as a little boy
Hmm.
and he kills his older sister, and then they
Yeah,
commit him to an institution. So there is a background. This is the person we're dealing with, a very psychotic child who is put into an institution after killing his sister as a boy, and then now he's out. And he
hmm,
just sets his sight on another. Who knows why? We're left to speculate. Maybe she
yeah.
reminds him of his sister. I'm taking this movie as a single thing. She's not
Hmm.
his sister. She is a random person. She is
Not in
not
this
related.
movie, correct? Yeah, I
Yes.
mean we're only
And
talking
that's
about the first
better.
one here. Yeah.
And that's better than what it became. This is perfect, as in
Hmm.
my opinion.
Hmm.
I don't think there should be a relation. It's not as strong.
Yeah, I mean Carpenter when he wrote the second one, he claimed he just basically stayed up drinking and rushed out a script. You
Yeah,
know,
I don't mind
for
it for a part two. It's like, oh, we got to do something.
yeah, it's a
But
pretty
if
good
you're
part two.
but if you're just gonna look at this movie,
Yeah,
the
I mean, the
implication
first one
is,
should be a standalone also. Like
and
you
they're
can think of it as the
strangers.
beginning of a series, but it's also a film that doesn't need any sequels,
Yes,
you
yes.
know, and that's I think what makes it even more effective is it's extremely iconic.
Yeah, it almost can't have any sequels. I even if we were tasked with like making Halloween 2 and none of the others existed, it's like, oh, really?
Well,
Now
they've
I have to
tried in a lot of ways.
define Michael Myers a little more, and that's just going to deflate the mystery of him and the
Yeah, and
mystique, and there's nothing else you can do.
it's important to remember that this film fell between Jaws and Alien, which are also both about unstoppable forces
Yes,
that
an
are stalking.
unstoppable force.
Yeah, and that's what he is, but they did it on a budget. So they didn't have a rubber shark and they didn't have Giger's alien. They had a guy in a mechanic's jumpsuit with a William Shatner mask.
That's it.
And, and thanks to Tommy Lee Wallace, one more time, he made this terrifying, which
It is
worked.
it is very scary. That
Yeah,
man in the first movie, it's scary to see a guy with a featureless face somewhat.
yeah. And I think because of the absolute lack of humanity of that
Yes.
adds to the fear.
Yep.
Because I mean, I don't understand even to this day. Maybe you can enlighten me why the character is called the Shape. I guess that's just because it's a vague term. Is that it?
Well, yeah, and I think that they were on board with the mystery and the mystique of it all. And
Yeah, yeah, but the shape as a word, like I'm not
right.
because they call him the boogeyman in the movie,
Yeah.
and the boogeyman is real and all that. So I mean, I would have just gone with that because the shape is kind of puzzling because it makes me think of like Jabba the Hutt or something. That's a strange shape,
Yeah. It
like a
seems
big
like they
slug
couldn't think
chasing
of
people.
any real word and they just landed on that. That's what it feels like.
But miraculously, a guy in a jumpsuit with that mask becomes genuinely terrifying. And it's under the simplest terms, just a guy standing across the street staring
Yeah.
becomes really disturbing. So it's
Yes.
it's incredibly effective that they did this with so few tools,
Yeah.
you know, and such a simple outline, for how the story works.
Yes.
That I don't know of another example of that. Of course, everyone tried to copy it, but
Yeah.
but there was never anything prior to this. People compare it to Black Christmas, but that's a really different film.
It's very different, and there
Yeah.
aren't even even in the like the sex romance part is not
Hmm.
in it at all, even though it's
Hmm.
college girls. There's no,
Hmm.
and this sort of really introduced that, I feel. And that's another thing I wanted to say. I'm always struck by how non-exploitative this movie seems to me when I watch it. To me,
Yeah,
when the
it's
girls
almost
get together,
bloodless.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, well, yeah, there's not a lot of ridiculous gore, but there's just enough to be scary.
Yeah.
And the girls and the boyfriends and the sex, like all of that felt like that's a natural, honest thing that they
Yeah, it
really
is.
would be doing on Halloween
Mhm.
night. It did not feel like a financial consideration from the producers. It just
Mhm.
doesn't. It feels authentic to me when I watch this movie,
Yeah, and it
even if
feels
it's not.
of its time. It's got the Blue Oyster Cult song in it, you
Oh
know.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so that feels like part of the movie as well. It feels like that's the time period. That's what people are listening to in their car in the suburbia,
yeah,
you know.
totally.
So it works on a lot of levels for being very plausible, which
Yes,
is to its
yes,
credit because if you take the pieces apart, they're not plausible on their own,
right.
you know. But when they're put together, it makes this sort of melange where you go, okay, I buy this story during this narrative.
That's exactly it. I'm able to suspend my disbelief
Hmm.
quite easily in this one and just go with it. That doesn't mean that there aren't nitpicks that with any movie, but that's my gauge. Is like there's every movie has flaws,
Hmm.
but can I suspend my disbelief to ride with it? And this
Right.
movie, the answer is yes.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, credit to Carpenter. You know, he definitely has his reputation in the world for his behaviors, and his attitudes. But you know, coming off Assault on Precinct 13, which has horrific elements in it, it's not a horror movie, but it feels like one during parts of it. He knew how to line it up. He knew how to put it together. He knew how to score it. And apparently,
Yeah,
even
that
he
music.
loosely scored it. Some of the music is just dropped in too. It's not even scored to picture, which is kind of
Ah,
amazing when you think about it later, how well it syncs. You know, sync with
yes.
a Y, obviously, but you know, it's a pretty remarkable achievement, like as an independent film, to get all the pieces put together this
Yes.
elegantly.
And there's one
Um,
more thing I think we want to mention because it's going to really come into play in part two, and
mhm,
that's Michael Myers, not just his character, which we went into a little bit. The mystique is great. Um, his level of intelligence. So I feel like this movie almost effortlessly, without even trying, communicates just enough. It communicates what we need to know to kind of gauge where his level of intelligence is.
mhm,
Meaning, like, I feel like he is psychotic. I feel like he's not really living in the real world, like fully. And I feel like once he gets his sights on something, he's compelled, almost like a some of these, these cannibalistic serial killers, the real guys, like, they'd say, like, I can't help myself when it starts. There's nothing I can do. I should be executed because it's never going to change. I mean, that's what they say in their interviews. And it's like, I feel like Michael Myers, he just kind of is just sort of goes for it. And he's not, he can't, I don't like, he just moves steadfastly and with determination and fairly quickly, but he's not like a runner or a sprinter. It
mhm,
all is believable in this. I'm like, yeah, he's walking across the street, not too slow. He's getting there. He's gaining on her. He's going to get there. And I always felt like every time he had to move around, I believed who he was, his character, and that's exactly how he would move in this situation,
mhm,
especially because that situation is the situation that was set up by the director and the DP. And it visually, and it made sense. Oh, he would walk briskly, but walk here. And
mhm.
not the case with part two. But so I just wanted to say that he's
Well,
defined just
yeah.
enough, and we don't need any more, in my opinion.
Right. And let's please give a shout out to Nick Castle, who plays the Shape,
Mm-hmm.
a fine director in his own right. I'm a fan of The Last Starfighter and his other stuff. He's cool. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently, there was a scene of him walking across the street at night when Carpenter was directing, and Castle said, "Do you want me to walk like with a limp or like kind of crazy or fast?" Or he said, "No, just walk across the street,"
Just just a
because he
regular
knew
old
that that
walk.
would be
I,
disturbing.
it is. It's
Yeah,
so much more disturbing than any weird.
yeah, without the acting. Like don't
Yes,
act.
that's it.
Just do the action without adding anything to
That
it.
that's a
And so that
revelation of the movie for sure. This guy's just gonna walk like a normal human, and it's gonna be way more frightening than if they dolled it up with any kind of pizzazz.
now moving on to part two, though, I do want to say that the man who plays Michael Myers in this film he's certainly a contender for one of the best names in show business.
Okay.
Dick Warlock,
Nice.
stuntman. Like, you don't get teased on the playground when your name's Warlock. I think
No.
he probably grew up a very confident kid, if that's his real name. Good for him. But his gait is not your favorite. So we will now
Mm-mm.
talk about Halloween 2 from 1981,
Hmm.
which was Rick Rosenthal's first attempt at the series.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
let's talk about the context, though, because
Okay.
prior to
Yes.
Halloween, we had Jaws, which, in my opinion, is a slasher film in a disguise. You
Hmm.
know, the shark is the slasher, basically.
Right.
Um, after Halloween, everyone said, "Oh, we can make money by putting someone in a costume and giving them a knife and having
Yeah.
them run around and chase nubile people."
Yep.
And so we had Terror Train and we had Happy Birthday to Me and we had all these films, some of them
Yep.
with Jamie Lee Curtis,
Yep.
Prom Night. She would go up to Canada and make these slashers probably for cheap. Um, and then Friday the 13th came along and was a huge hit in 1980.
Hmm.
So I think at Universal, I think maybe they made part two. I'm pretty sure. I don't have it in front of me. Whoever was owning the rights to Halloween at that time, and Carpenter and Hill, I think, wanted out. They didn't really want to continue it, but they were convinced to go on with it.
Sure.
And they're like, well, this is the trend now. The era of the slasher had begun and they had launched it. So 3 years later, we get what happens later that night, which is pretty ambitious.
Yeah, and I kind of like that idea. I don't think enough films do it. Believe it or not, Porky's and Porky's 2 does that.
The
Porky's 2
next
is called
day.
The Next Day, yeah, and
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is
I remember. I
exactly a
didn't see the second
continuation.
one, but I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm going to
And
get myself the 4K set as soon as we're done here.
yes, exactly, and project it. And, um, I felt like so I like that element. I like okay if they're gonna take it on like it, they take it. They literally continue from the second,
Mhm.
like Michael Myers is shot down at the end of the first one. He falls out the window. Then they look down onto the ground, and he's not there. He must have walked away, and
Mhm.
it's a brilliant ending. And then the shots after that of the house with his breathing might be my favorite thing in the whole movie. It's super effective
At the end of the original.
at the end of the original
Yeah,
film.
yeah, it's
Yes,
very good. Yeah.
fabulous. Oh my God, classic.
Mhm.
And so it continues right from there. Again, the whole sequel is unnecessary, but I kind of like that it continues. All right, what's going to happen next? But they're up against a wall. That you got to define Michael a little more. You
Mhm.
have to do all these things that kind of deflate the power of the original, and you can't help it. But what they could help is they could have had better constructed, suspenseful uh, chase and kill scenes where
Mhm.
I could suspend my disbelief and believe it. But there were too many points in this movie where he could easily get to them and he's not. And it doesn't feel logical like the first one. It feels like they're just having him swing his scalpel and walk too slow for no real reason. And I couldn't buy into it as well this time. I don't think they had a handle on it.
You didn't like his movement as much either, his robot walk.
Oh,
And
the ending I absolutely hate. I hate that
and the
swinging that thing around while he's blind just makes him look like a goofball. He wouldn't do that. He'd be like, "Oh, my eyes have been pierced," and
uh,
he would kind of disappear again and then come
mhm,
back later when he's able
right.
to kill people. He wouldn't just. But why would you do that to your horror villain? Was supposed to be scary at the end.
Mhm.
It just seems. It
Yeah,
seems like
that's
bad
another case where
choices.
it's so melodramatic that I go with it.
Hmm.
With Loomis and the fire and everything. I'm like, okay, I'm on board.
Yeah.
Um, but this is not the same as the first film. This is a film that takes place largely in a hospital. Um, it's not really an exploration of 70s suburbia. It's not the
Mm,
decay of society that kind of is suggested by the first film because it's not apple pie 1950s anymore. Danger can get into suburbia is kind of the
true.
message of the first film.
Very good.
And that's a pretty big theme. That was a pretty like juggernaut of an idea at that time. Like the Brady Bunch is over. You
Yeah.
can't just have fun in
It's
suburbia anymore.
danger
There's
now.
this thing that might not let you survive the night. The second film takes it into a hospital because, you know, Laurie has been injured. She's incapacitated for a lot of the film. We go to other characters, some of whom are quite appealing on screen, I must say. Thank you, Pamela Shoop.
Hmm.
Um, so good work there. And then, you know, obviously some orderlies and people around the hospital are fodder for Michael Myers. Um, I like this movie partly, admittedly, because of nostalgia, and
Hmm.
it's a kind of code word where you usually would reject that, I think. But because of our age, Halloween was not accessible to me as a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
I think I got the poster from the video store, Musicland Records or something, you know, like a couple years later, like in 1980. But in 78, there was no way.
No,
Um,
yeah.
but in 81, then it started to be a possibility. I could probably get into this. And it was seemingly kind of lurid, kind of spooky. It had that Halloween feel to it. It had the skull and the pumpkin image as their
Yes. And
poster.
has great opening shots, I think. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
another one with some good opening shots, I
Yeah, going
remember.
around the neighborhood and
Yeah,
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 and that couple and they're arguing about food or something. And
yeah.
yeah, it drew me in kind of like Jaws 2 did, which I saw before Jaws, believe it or not.
Oh,
And I'm
okay.
like, I want to know more about this. And it kind of gave me a love of sequels. Both of those films did, because the elaboration on the original material does appeal to me. I like the exploration of it when it's intelligent.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, like the Blumhouse ones, they're not terrible movies. They're competently made, but I don't think they understood the material. I think they tried to impose their will upon the material instead of extending it. Whereas I
Hmm.
think Halloween 2 from 81 is a pretty good natured attempt to make a continued scary story
Yep.
from the
I
first one.
I agree completely. And Jaws 2
Yeah.
was the same, and they're a great comparison because they're both definitely inferior to the original. They don't have that kind of tension and they don't really work. But at the same time, they still feel like that era. The tone is pretty much right.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a vibe about them that seems consistent. And they didn't try to go way off the wall with the
Right.
story.
Yeah.
Either of them did. And so you know, yeah,
This one
I have
has Halloween 2 has some strange twists to it. This one introduces the idea that Laurie is Michael's sister from a different
sure.
name, a different family that adopted her,
Yep.
which we didn't know previously. And so that becomes canon in the second film, not in
Yep.
the first.
Right.
And it's got the pagan notion in it that is hilariously mispronounced by Donald Pleasance when they go into the classroom and it's written on the wall. I think Michael Myers wrote it. And he's like, Sam Hain. And I'm like, oh,
Sam Hain.
it's so painful to sit through that pronunciation. You know,
Yeah.
Samhain, Mr. Pleasance,
Yeah.
you're British. How do you not know? so, um,
Yep. Yep.
so there's funny
That's
stuff in
funny.
it where, and I kind of applaud their effort because that probably was not, you know, at the forefront of popular culture at that time to think about pagan holidays. So the
Yeah.
fact that it's in there at all is kind of
They're trying.
impressive.
Yep.
It's a clumsy first step, but I'm like, you gave it a try,
Yeah,
you
and
know.
there are a
So
couple things I do want to bring up, a few more things.
mhm,
Two are criticisms and one's a positive. The two criticisms is that Michael's invincibility and his level of intelligence are now brought completely into question. They work in
mhm,
the first because they don't need to be defined, and especially the invincibility,
mhm,
that's only in the last 60 seconds of the film. And
mhm,
he's been shot by bullets. And then his body is no longer on the ground. It's like he's obviously walked away.
mhm,
And you can still believe it. It's like, well, when people, if maybe he was shot in the gut, people live, they can bleed it out, they can bleed out for 24 hours after they're shot in the gut, and still live. And so you can buy it, but they hint that maybe he is supernatural. Maybe
mhm,
he is the boogeyman. Maybe he is the embodiment of all of our irrational childhood fears. And it's just perfect the way it's just perfectly done.
mhm,
And I don't mind thinking a little bit in my head at the end, maybe he's supernatural. Maybe that's not stupid. Maybe he is. I think that's interesting. Here,
mhm,
either he does way too many in Halloween 2, way too many things where he's just completely invincible. And I don't understand why, because you're watching it happen scene after scene, and you're forced to think about it like, oh, so is he like a superhero or a zombie or supernatural? Like, They
Yeah.
should, I don't know. It doesn't really work. And the intelligence, because he's so lumbering in this one, and he's so robotic for no reason, like weirdly robotic, unlike in the first one. He
Hmm.
doesn't feel like a human being
Hmm.
like he does in the first. And
Hmm.
and it you got to start to define like, oh, does he have brain damage? Maybe you got to start to deal with it. And those two things, I think, unfortunately, are inferior elements in this movie.
That's totally fair. The first film, maybe because of their limited resources, is an elegant production. And then everything after that is like a lot of criticisms I make of sequels today. It all feels kind of like fanfic. And, the ambiguity at the end of the first movie is a perfect ending.
Hmm.
How did he get up? We don't know. Great credits, or
Right.
breathing in the house and credits, and let us wonder about it. Good night. Thank you for joining our movie. The second one has to continue the story, so it
Right.
belabors it, naturally. But it does have that good nature. We kind of like this scenario, so we get to visit it again. It's
Yes,
that feeling is pretty good when it's handled with some care.
it is. And
Yeah.
and speaking of that, my positive, this movie visually is well directed. Rick Rosenthal shot a good movie, like a well-looking movie, which usually for me, if it's well directed, I'm well directed visually. I didn't say it was well directed character-wise or writing-wise or all that
Mhm.
other stuff, but um, just the compositions and the dollies and the choices of shots, the choreography of it, it really he's a visually thinking director, but not too flashy. Just really well done, like getting out of the way, but giving you some great visual design. And somehow it didn't elevate the movie like it usually does for me. But nonetheless, I was still able to go, oh, I like these shots. And so that's a positive.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good call. So in conclusion, let us cite our favorites. I think you did already, but go ahead and do that again.
Okay.
Of
One,
these 13 films thus
yes.
far in the franchise.
One, then four are the only two movies that I really would say to people, yeah, go see them. They're good, or better than good, depending. Um, After that, everything is in the, competent average to below.
Yeah,
And the third, I would have to go with H2O, although Halloween 2 is a close neighbor to it. H2O and Halloween 2, they both exceed in different ways and fail in different ways.
they're really similar in a lot of ways too. Yeah,
Yeah, so
picking
those
up
two.
Laurie's story after that. Okay,
Yeah, yeah. So those two, and then I don't think I have much. And then, I mean, I guess three because it's so silly and outrageous. Don't necessarily go to love it on its own terms, but to kind of
no,
laugh at some of the fun, so weird silliness and have a good time
yeah.
and laugh at it a bit. And so maybe that, and that's about all I got to say.
Okay, well, I think we both lean toward the earlier films, though, certainly. Um, I don't think it's being stodgy or dusty. I think, when they keep going back to the well, it does deplete the well. So, for me, it's the first three, four, and six, five. It has to be there because it's in between. And then after that, I'm glad that Jamie Lee Curtis came back for H2O, and it's a charming movie, but it is very by the numbers for the
Yeah.
most part.
Mhm.
And then, after that, it's like, well, okay, now it's just this machine that they have to go and start up every few years to make some cash. So it's just another cow to milk.
Right.
And yeah, and the later films really, they're pretty much disposable. I think some
Yeah.
talented people worked on them. And so I would always credit the people who show up and do
Oh,
their
yeah.
job and pay their rent and take care of their families and do their work on the set. So it's never a
Absolutely.
criticism of the cast or crew
No.
or anything like that. It's just that I think there needs to be more vision when people show up and make sequels.
Yeah.
I think there has to be an affection for the material that goes beyond just wanting to exploit it and make another one. They have to actually care.
Yeah, it's not
And if
just,
not,
oh,
then
we got to sell a bunch of Michael Myers masks this Halloween, so let's get one out in the theater.
right. Yeah. I mean, to bring up Mustafa Akkad one more time, there's some interview with him in his office, and he's got like a pretty large Michael Myers action figure behind him. And
Okay.
he reaches back and grabs it and he goes, I love this guy. Because,
And I do too.
yeah. So
Great, great
yeah.
character.
An excellent boogeyman they did give to us. Many thanks to William Shatner for inadvertently participating in that. And yeah, Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween to our listeners, and happy Halloween, Paul.
Oh, happy Halloween, Gregory. And don't forget, everyone is entitled to one good scare. This has been Culture Coil, the podcast of Paul and Gregory. Copyright 2025, all rights reserved.